The blue uniform, crisp and starched, felt like a second skin, yet it never quite fit the way it did on the others. Every seam, every button, seemed to pull a little tighter, a silent testament to a battle fought not just on the streets, but within the very walls of the precinct. Whispers followed her, hushed glances lingered, and the weight of unspoken judgment was a constant companion. They saw the curves, the extra pounds, the deviation from the idealized image of a police officer. They saw a weakness, a liability, but what they couldn't see, what they refused to acknowledge, was the steel forged in her spirit, the unwavering resolve in her heart, and the precision in her hands that could make a target sing. They hadn't yet learned that true strength isn't always measured in speed or agility, but in the quiet, unyielding power of a mind that refuses to break, and a will that stands firm when all others falter. And soon, the city, and her own department, would be forced to see beyond the uniform, to the woman beneath, when the line between order and chaos blurred, and only one person had the courage to draw a steady aim. Before we dive deeper into Officer Miller's journey and witness her unwavering spirit, if you're already feeling the pull of her story, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to bring more powerful narratives like this one to life. Thank you. The fluorescent lights of the precinct hummed with a monotonous drone, casting a harsh, unforgiving glow on the worn linoleum floors. For Officer Cassidy Miller, or Cassie as she preferred, this was the backdrop to her daily battle. Every morning, she'd pull on her uniform, the sturdy fabric a familiar embrace, yet always a reminder of the subtle, unspoken judgment that permeated her world. The pants were always a little snug, the shirt stretched across her chest, and the vest, designed for a more conventional physique, felt like a cumbersome armor. She carried her weight with a practiced defiance, a silent challenge to anyone who dared to question her presence. Cassie had dreamed of being a police officer since she was a little girl, watching her father, a decorated detective, walk out the door each morning, a hero in her eyes. The badge, the uniform, the unwavering commitment to justice, it was in her blood. But the path to achieving that dream had been anything but smooth. The police academy had been a grueling crucible, not just physically, but emotionally. While she excelled in marksmanship, tactical training, and classroom studies, the physical fitness tests were a constant uphill battle. The running, the obstacle courses, the sheer endurance required, they pushed her to her limits, and sometimes beyond. She remembered the whispers during morning runs, the snickers when she lagged behind, the thinly veiled condescension from some instructors. "Miller, pick up the pace," they'd bark, their eyes lingering on her frame. She pushed through it all, fueled by a stubborn pride and the image of her younger brother, Liam, who looked up to her with uncritical adoration. She graduated, badge in hand, but the scars of those judgments remained, etched into her memory. Now, assigned to the bustling 17th precinct in a diverse, often challenging district of the city, Cassie found herself navigating a new landscape of subtle prejudice. Her partner, Officer Ben Carter, was a godsend. Ben was a few years older, with a kind face and a no-nonsense attitude. He'd seen enough in his years on the force to judge people by their actions, not their appearance. From day one, he treated Cassie with respect, recognizing her sharp mind and unwavering dedication. "Morning, Miller," Ben greeted her one Tuesday. As she walked into the locker room, he was already in uniform, adjusting his duty belt. "Ready to tackle the mean streets?" "As I'll ever be, Carter," Cassie replied, forcing a smile. She appreciated his easy camaraderie. It was a stark contrast to some of their other colleagues. Officer Jessica Riley, a petite woman with sharp features and an even sharper tongue, was already dressed, meticulously checking her reflection in the locker mirror. She glanced at Cassie, a faint smirk playing on her lips. "Looks like someone had a good breakfast, Miller," she quipped, loud enough for others to hear. Cassie felt the familiar flush creep up her neck. She ignored Jess, focusing on securing her vest. "Just fueled for duty, Riley," she retorted, her voice even, betraying none of the irritation she felt. Ben, sensing the tension, stepped in smoothly. "All right, ladies, let's keep it professional. We've got a busy shift ahead." He gave Cassie a reassuring nod, a silent acknowledgement of Jess's petty digs. Their shift began with the usual routine: patrol, responding to minor disturbances, filing reports. The city was a living, breathing entity, constantly shifting, constantly demanding. Cassie loved the work, the unpredictable nature of it, the chance to make a difference, however small. She was observant, quick-witted, and had a knack for de-escalating tense situations with a calm, authoritative presence. Later that morning, the entire precinct was called to the shooting range for mandatory quarterly qualification. This was where Cassie truly shone. The smell of gunpowder, the sharp crack of gunfire, the focused intensity, this was her element. She walked onto the range, her heavy frame moving with a surprising grace as she took her position. Captain Thomas Sterling, a man in his late 50s with a stern face and a reputation for being old school, was overseeing the qualifications. He was a stickler for discipline and appearance, and Cassie knew she was often a source of quiet disapproval for him. He watched her with a critical eye as she loaded her weapon. "All right, officers, standard qualification course." Captain Sterling's voice boomed across the range. 25 yards, 10 rounds, rapid fire. Let's see some precision. Cassie took a deep breath, her mind clearing. She raised her Glock 17, her hands steady, her grip firm. Her eyes narrowed, locking onto the silhouette target. The world seemed to shrink, the noise fading, leaving only her, the weapon, and the target. She squeezed the trigger. Once, twice, a controlled burst of fire. The recoil was familiar, a powerful kick against her palm. She reloaded, her movements fluid and practiced, and continued firing, each shot a testament to years of dedicated practice. When the ceasefire was called, a small crowd of officers gathered to check their targets. Cassie walked up to hers, a quiet satisfaction settling over her. 10 rounds, all within the center mass, a tight grouping that spoke of exceptional accuracy. Ben clapped her on the shoulder. "Nice shooting, Miller, as always." Jess Riley, standing nearby, glanced at Cassie's target, her smirk faltering slightly. Even she couldn't deny the impressive results. Captain Sterling, however, approached Cassie with a different expression. He looked at her target, then at her, his gaze lingering on her size. "Impressive, Miller," he conceded, his voice grudging. "Your marksmanship is consistently top tier, but a police officer needs more than just a good shot. They need to be able to pursue, to engage physically, to maintain a high level of physical fitness." The implication was clear, and it stung. Cassie had heard it 1,000 times, in 1,000 different ways. She met his gaze, her own eyes unwavering. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't run like some of the others," she said, her voice steady, her pride unshaken. "But I shoot well, and I can think under pressure. I can de-escalate. I can protect." Captain Sterling's jaw tightened. He seemed to search for a retort, but found none. He simply grunted, then turned and walked away, leaving Cassie with a mix of frustration and a quiet sense of defiance. She knew her limitations, but she also knew her strengths, and she refused to let anyone diminish them. If you're already rooting for Officer Miller and her determination, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share more stories of strength and resilience. Later that day, back in their patrol car, Ben noticed Cassie's quietness. "Don't let him get to you, Cass," he said, his voice gentle. "Sterling's old school. He sees what he wants to see. We all know what you bring to the table." "It's just frustrating, Ben," Cassie sighed, staring out the window at the passing city. "I work twice as hard to prove myself, and it's still not enough for some people. It's like they're just waiting for me to fail." "Then don't give them the satisfaction," Ben replied, his gaze firm. "You're a good cop, Cassie. One of the best I've worked with. You're smart, you're calm, and when things go sideways, I want you covering my back. That's what matters." His words were a balm to her wounded spirit. Ben was one of the few who truly saw her, beyond the uniform and the size. He saw the dedicated officer, the sharp mind, the steady hand. That evening, after her shift, Cassie drove home to the small apartment she shared with her younger brother, Liam. Liam was 17, a bright kid with a passion for coding, and her entire world. Their parents had passed away a few years ago in a car accident, leaving Cassie, then just 22, to become Liam's guardian. It had been a monumental responsibility, one she had embraced with fierce love and determination. Liam was her anchor, her reason for pushing through every challenge, every prejudiced glance. "Hey, big sis," Liam greeted her, looking up from his laptop, a half-eaten pizza box beside him. Rough day, he could always tell. Cassie dropped her duty bag by the door. kicking off her heavy boots. "Just another day at the office, kiddo. How was school? Any new coding breakthroughs?" Liam launched into an enthusiastic explanation of a new project he was working on, his eyes alight with passion. Cassie listened, nodding, offering encouragement, the stress of her day slowly melting away in the warmth of his presence. He never judged her, never questioned her abilities. To him, she was simply Cassie, his protector, his hero. After dinner, as Liam retreated to his room to continue coding, Cassie sat on the worn sofa, scrolling through her phone. She saw a post from Jess Riley on the precinct's internal social media group, a photo of Jess and a few other officers, all lean and athletic, posing after a morning run. The caption read, "Keeping fit for duty. No excuses." It felt like a direct jab, a subtle but pointed reminder of her perceived shortcomings. A wave of exhaustion washed over her, a weariness that went beyond physical fatigue. It was the exhaustion of constantly having to prove herself, of fighting against invisible barriers, of carrying the weight of others' expectations and judgments. She closed her eyes, picturing the shooting range, the tight grouping of her shots. She remembered the feeling of control, the precision, the absolute focus. That was her strength. That was where she excelled, and she wouldn't let anyone take that away from her. The next few weeks brought a series of escalating tensions in the district. A string of armed robberies had put the precinct on high alert. The perpetrator, a ruthless individual known only as the Shadow, was cunning and violent, leaving a trail of fear in his wake. The pressure on the police force was immense, with Captain Sterling pushing his officers harder than ever. During daily briefings, Captain Sterling emphasized the need for speed, agility, and aggressive pursuit. His gaze often swept over Cassie, a silent message that she was not the ideal candidate for such operations. Cassie, however, paid close attention to the details of the robberies, the patterns, the escape routes. She studied the intel, analyzing the criminals' methods, looking for weaknesses. Her mind, sharp and analytical, was her greatest asset. One afternoon, Sergeant Elena Rodriguez, a seasoned officer with a reputation for fairness and keen observation, pulled Cassie aside. Sergeant Rodriguez was a woman of quiet authority, respected by everyone. "Miller," she began, her voice low, "I've been reviewing the reports on the Shadow. Your observations in the field reports are consistently insightful. You notice details others miss." Cassie felt a flicker of surprise and gratitude. "Thank you, Sergeant. I try to be thorough." "You are," Sergeant Rodriguez affirmed, "and your marksmanship scores are outstanding. Don't let anyone tell you that doesn't matter. In this job, sometimes one well-placed shot is worth a dozen sprints." She gave Cassie a knowing look, a rare moment of validation that warmed Cassie's heart. "Keep your head up, Miller. Your time will come." Her words were a much-needed boost, a reminder that not everyone in the department was blind to her true capabilities. But the underlying tension in the city continued to mount. The Shadow remained elusive, his crimes growing bolder, more brazen. The public was growing restless, demanding action. Cassie felt the weight of the badge more acutely than ever. It wasn't just the physical weight of the uniform, but the immense responsibility it represented. She knew that at any moment, she could be called upon to face danger, to protect the innocent, to put her life on the line. And when that moment came, she would not falter. She would stand her ground, rely on her strengths, and prove, once and for all, that true worth was not measured by appearances, but by courage, skill, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The city was holding its breath, and so was she, knowing that the true test of her mettle was just around the corner. If Officer Miller's quiet strength and determination are captivating you, please show your support by giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Every like and subscription helps us continue telling these powerful human stories. The city held its breath. The Shadow, the elusive armed robber, had escalated his crimes, moving from small businesses to more high-profile targets. The news channels were abuzz, the public was on edge, and the pressure on the 17th precinct was immense. Captain Sterling's briefings grew more intense, his frustration palpable. He pushed for aggressive patrols, for officers to be constantly on the move, to corner the suspect. His emphasis on physical prowess, however, continued to grate on Cassie, a constant reminder of the department's narrow definition of a good officer. Cassie, however, found her own way to contribute. While others focused on high-speed pursuits and physical sweeps, she immersed herself in the details. She spent hours poring over crime scene photos, witness statements, and surveillance footage. Her analytical mind, honed by years of observation and problem-solving, began to piece together subtle patterns that others missed. The shadow always struck on Tuesdays or Thursdays, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. He favored establishments near major transit lines, but always with a specific, almost artistic, escape route that involved a quick dash through an alleyway leading to a less trafficked street. He also seemed to avoid areas with heavy foot traffic, preferring quieter, more secluded spots for his getaways. "He's not just fast, Ben," Cassie mused one afternoon, pointing to a map of recent robberies spread across their patrol car dashboard. "He's smart. He's planning these routes meticulously. He knows the city's blind spots." Ben nodded, impressed. "You've got a point, Cass. Most guys just hit and run. This guy's got a system. And he's getting bolder," Cassie continued, tracing a finger along a new cluster of pins on the map. "His targets are moving closer to the financial district. I think he's building up to something big." Their observations, however, were often dismissed by Captain Sterling, who preferred to focus on conventional tactics. "We need boots on the ground, officers. More patrols, more visibility. We'll wear him down," he'd bark during briefings, his gaze often sweeping over Cassie with a look that suggested her analytical approach was a luxury they couldn't afford. Officer Jess Riley, ever eager to impress Sterling, would often chime in with comments about proactive policing and physical deterrence, subtly undermining Cassie's contributions. "We need officers who can keep up, Captain," she'd say, glancing pointedly at Cassie. Cassie learned to tune out the noise, focusing instead on the work. She knew her value, and Ben's unwavering support was a constant source of strength. Liam, too, was her rock. He'd often listen patiently as she recounted her day, offering his own surprisingly insightful observations. "Maybe he's looking for something specific, Cass," Liam suggested one evening, while Cassie was reviewing a particularly grainy surveillance photo of the shadow. "Like, not just money, but something he can fence easily, or something that gives him access to bigger scores." Liam's comment sparked an idea. Cassie started cross-referencing the stolen items with known fencing operations and black market values. She noticed a pattern: high-value, easily transportable electronics and specific types of jewelry. It wasn't just random cash grabs. There was a method to his madness. If you're captivated by Officer Miller's sharp mind and her dedication to solving the case, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us share more stories of intelligence and perseverance. The tension in the city reached a fever pitch when the shadow hit a prominent art gallery, making off with several priceless artifacts. The mayor himself issued a statement, demanding immediate results. Captain Sterling was under immense pressure, and his frustration translated into even more aggressive tactics. "All right, listen up," Sterling roared during the next briefing, slamming his hand on the table. "We're going to flood the financial district. Every officer on patrol, every available unit. We're going to make it impossible for him to move. We'll catch him in the act." Cassie raised her hand. "Captain, with all due respect, I've been analyzing his patterns. He avoids heavy police presence. Flooding the area might just push him to another less protected part of the city, or make him lay low until we pull back." Sterling glared at her. "And what's your brilliant alternative, Officer Miller? Sit in the car and analyze him to death?" "No, sir," Cassie replied, her voice steady. "I believe we should anticipate his next move based on his past targets and escape routes. He's escalating, moving towards higher value targets. I think his next target will be a specific type of establishment, one that offers both high-value goods and a discreet escape, and I think he'll strike on Thursday, between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Jess Riley scoffed. "Sounds like a guess to me, Captain. We need action, not theories." Sterling hesitated, clearly torn between his own instincts and Cassie's logical, albeit unconventional analysis. Sergeant Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "Captain, Officer Miller's analysis has been consistent. It's worth considering a targeted approach alongside the general patrols." Sterling sighed, rubbing his temples. "Fine, Miller. What's your targeted approach?" "I believe he'll target the Precious Gems jewelry store on Elm Street," Cassie stated, pointing to a spot on the map. "It fits his criteria: high-value goods, near a transit line, and it has a narrow alleyway leading to a less trafficked side street. It's also relatively quiet during those hours. Sterling looked at the map, then back at Cassie, a flicker of grudging respect in his eyes. All right, Miller. Carter, you and Miller will stake out the Elm Street area. Riley, you're with Officer Davis on general patrol in the financial district. Everyone else maintain high-visibility patrols as planned. But if Miller's hunch proves correct, I want immediate backup. Cassie felt a surge of adrenaline. This was her chance. Her and Ben's. Thursday arrived. A crisp, clear autumn day. Cassie and Ben positioned their unmarked patrol car a few blocks from Precious Gems, maintaining a discreet watch. The hours crawled by, each minute feeling like an eternity. Cassie's eyes scanned the street, her mind alert, processing every detail. Ben, ever the calm presence, kept a steady hand on the wheel, occasionally offering a quiet word of encouragement. You really think he'll show, Cass? Ben asked, breaking the silence. He's predictable in his unpredictability, Ben, Cassie replied, her gaze fixed on the jewelry store. He's confident. He thinks he's smarter than us. He'll stick to his pattern. Just as the clock on the dashboard ticked past 11:30 a.m., a black, nondescript van pulled up to the curb directly in front of Precious Gems. Two figures clad in dark clothing and ski masks jumped out, brandishing firearms. That's him! Cassie exclaimed, her voice sharp and clear. The Shadow! And he's got a partner! Ben immediately radioed in. Shots fired. Precious Gems. Elm Street. Suspects are armed and entering the building, requesting immediate backup. Hold your position, Carter. Wait for backup. Sterling's voice crackled over the radio, laced with urgency. But Cassie knew they couldn't wait. Every second counted. Ben, we have to move. They'll be in and out in minutes. He'll use the alley. Without hesitation, Ben put the car in drive, speeding towards the jewelry store. As they approached, the two masked figures burst out of the store, carrying bags overflowing with jewelry. They were heading straight for the alleyway, just as Cassie had predicted. Ben, cut them off at the alley entrance, Cassie commanded, unbuckling her seatbelt and grabbing her shotgun. I'll take point. Ben swerved the car, blocking the alley entrance just as the two suspects reached it. The element of surprise was on their side. Police, drop your weapons, Cassie yelled, her voice booming, authoritative, as she emerged from the car, shotgun held firmly, aimed at the suspects. Ben, drawing his sidearm, took cover behind the car door. The two suspects froze, momentarily stunned. The one Cassie identified as the Shadow, a tall, lean man, recovered quickly. He raised his pistol, aiming at Cassie. Time seemed to slow. Cassie didn't hesitate. She had trained for this moment, envisioned it 1,000 times. Her years of marksmanship, her steady hands, her calm under pressure, it all converged into this single critical instant. I'm sorry, sir. I can't run, but I shoot well. The words she'd spoken to Captain Sterling echoed in her mind, a silent vow. She squeezed the trigger. The shotgun roared, a powerful blast that echoed through the street. The Shadow's pistol flew from his hand, clattering to the ground as he cried out, clutching his shoulder. Cassie had aimed for his weapon arm, a non-lethal but incapacitating shot. His partner, startled and disoriented, hesitated for a split second. Ben, seizing the opportunity, moved quickly, tackling the second suspect to the ground, disarming him. Within moments, the street was alive with sirens. Backup units, including Captain Sterling and Jess Riley, arrived, lights flashing, officers pouring out of their vehicles. They found Cassie standing over the Shadow, her shotgun still aimed, her face calm and resolute. Ben had the second suspect cuffed. Captain Sterling stared at the scene, then at Cassie, his face a mixture of shock and grudging admiration. The Shadow, the elusive criminal who had terrorized the city for weeks, was apprehended, not by a high-speed chase or a massive sweep, but by the precise, calculated actions of Officer Cassidy Miller. Jess Riley, her face pale, looked from the captured suspects to Cassie, a new, unfamiliar expression of awe and respect replacing her usual smirk. Officer Miller, Captain Sterling said, his voice surprisingly subdued. You were right. Your analysis was spot on. Cassie simply nodded, lowering her shotgun, the weight of the weapon feeling lighter now, replaced by the immense satisfaction of a job well done. She had proven her worth, not with words, but with actions. She had stood her ground, and in doing so, had saved the day. The whispers, the judgments, the subtle slights, They all faded into the background, replaced by the quiet, undeniable truth of her competence. The Shadow's grip on the city had been broken, and it was Officer Cassidy Miller who had tightened the cuffs. Officer Miller's moment of triumph is just beginning. If you're cheering for her and her incredible skills, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue to share these powerful and inspiring stories of true heroism. The immediate aftermath of the Shadow's apprehension was a whirlwind of activity. Crime scene investigators swarmed precious gems, detectives meticulously collected evidence, and the street, once a quiet thoroughfare, buzzed with the flashing lights of patrol cars and the murmurs of curious onlookers. Cassie and Ben were debriefed extensively, their accounts of the takedown scrutinized and praised. Captain Sterling, still visibly shaken by the precision of Cassie's prediction and execution, maintained a professional demeanor, but the shift in his attitude towards her was palpable. The grudging respect had solidified into something more akin to genuine admiration. News of the Shadow's capture spread like wildfire. Local news channels broadcasted the story, highlighting the bravery of the officers involved. While the official reports credited the precinct's coordinated efforts, whispers within the department, and eventually in the media, began to focus on Officer Miller's pivotal role. Her analytical skills, her accurate prediction, and her decisive action were lauded. Back at the precinct, the atmosphere had changed. The subtle prejudice that had once clung to Cassie like a shadow began to dissipate. Colleagues who had once offered dismissive glances now offered nods of respect. Jess Riley, in particular, seemed to have undergone a profound transformation. She approached Cassie in the break room the day after the incident, her usual sharp demeanor replaced by a hesitant humility. "Miller," Jess began, her voice softer than Cassie had ever heard it. I wanted to apologize for everything, for my comments, for my attitude. I was wrong about you. Completely wrong." She looked genuinely contrite. "You were incredible out there. You saved lives. You saved the day." Cassie, surprised by the sincerity, simply nodded. "It's all right, Riley. We all make mistakes." "No, it's not all right," Jess insisted. "My prejudice clouded my judgment. I saw what I wanted to see, not what was actually there. You're a damn good cop, Miller, and I'm proud to serve with you." She even offered a small, awkward smile. "And for the record, your shooting was legendary. Everyone's talking about it." The apology, unexpected and heartfelt, was a significant moment for Cassie. It wasn't just about Jess. It was a reflection of a broader shift within the precinct. The whispers had stopped, replaced by a quiet acknowledgement of her competence. Sergeant Elena Rodriguez, ever the astute observer, pulled Cassie aside later that week. "I told you your time would come, Miller," she said, a proud smile on her face. "You proved them all wrong, and you did it your way. That takes real courage." "Thank you, Sergeant," Cassie replied, a genuine warmth spreading through her. "Your support meant a lot." "Keep doing what you're doing," Rodriguez advised. "Don't let this go to your head, but don't let anyone diminish your achievements either. You've earned your place." If you're enjoying this shift in perception and the recognition Officer Miller is finally receiving, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful stories of overcoming adversity. The biggest change, however, came from Captain Sterling. He called Cassie into his office a few days later, his expression serious. "Officer Miller," he began, gesturing to the chair opposite his desk. "Please, sit." Cassie sat, a slight apprehension still lingering. "I've been in this department for 30 years, Sterling said, leaning back in his chair, his gaze fixed on her. "And in that time, I've seen a lot of officers come and go. I've held certain expectations, certain beliefs about what makes a good officer." He paused, taking a deep breath. "I was wrong about you, Miller. I let my preconceived notions cloud my judgment. I focused on what I perceived as your weaknesses, instead of recognizing your extraordinary strengths." He looked directly at her, his eyes holding a rare vulnerability. "Your analytical skills, your calm under pressure, your marksmanship, they are exceptional. You saved lives that day, Officer Miller. You prevented further chaos. You did what many, including myself, might not have been able to do, and for that, I am truly grateful, and I apologize for my past conduct." Cassie was stunned. Captain Sterling, the stern, old-school commander, was apologizing. It was a moment of profound validation, a healing of old wounds. "Thank you, Captain," she managed to say, her voice a little choked. "That means a lot." "It's the truth," Sterling insisted, "and I want to make sure your talents are properly utilized. I'm creating a new task force, a specialized unit focused on intelligence-led policing and high-risk tactical response. I want you to be a part of it, Miller, and I want you to help train the other officers in advanced marksmanship and tactical decision-making under pressure." Cassie's heart leaped. A specialized unit? Training other officers? This was beyond anything she had imagined. "Captain, I would be honored." "Good." Sterling nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. "You've earned it. And one more thing, Miller. I'm putting you in for a commendation for your actions during the Shadow incident. You deserve it." Walking out of Captain Sterling's office, Cassie felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. The weight of the badge still rested on her chest, but now it felt like a symbol of honor, not a burden of proof. She had not only proven her worth, but had also, in her own quiet way, begun to change the culture of the precinct. The news of her promotion and the formation of the new task force spread quickly. Ben was ecstatic. "See, Cass? I told you. They finally saw what I've always seen." Liam, when she told him, hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe. "That's amazing, Cassie. I knew you'd do it. You're the best." His pride was infectious, a pure, uncritical joy that reminded her why she fought so hard. Cassie's new role was challenging and fulfilling. She worked closely with Sergeant Rodriguez, who was also part of the task force, and found a renewed sense of purpose. She designed training modules that emphasized not just physical prowess, but also critical thinking, de-escalation techniques, and, of course, precision marksmanship. She taught officers how to assess situations quickly, how to use cover effectively, and how to make split-second decisions that could save lives. During one of her first training sessions, she stood before a group of officers, including Jess Riley, demonstrating advanced shooting techniques. She moved with a quiet authority, her voice clear and confident as she explained the nuances of grip, stance, and breath control. Jess, now a diligent and respectful student, watched her with rapt attention, absorbing every word. "Remember," Cassie told them, her gaze sweeping across the room, "it's not always about speed. It's about precision. It's about control. It's about knowing your weapon, knowing your target, and knowing yourself. And sometimes, a steady hand and a clear mind are more powerful than any sprint." She demonstrated a complex shot, hitting the bullseye with effortless accuracy. A ripple of impressed murmurs went through the room. Jess Riley was among the first to applaud. The task force quickly proved its value, tackling complex cases with a blend of intelligence and tactical expertise. Cassie's contributions were instrumental, her insights often leading to breakthroughs. She found herself thriving in this environment, surrounded by colleagues who respected her for her abilities, not for her appearance. One afternoon, while on patrol with Ben, they responded to a domestic disturbance call. It was a tense situation, with a distraught man barricaded inside his apartment, threatening his family. Other officers were already on scene, trying to de-escalate. Captain Sterling was also present, overseeing the operation. As Cassie and Ben arrived, they assessed the situation. The man was agitated, yelling, and clearly armed. The apartment building was old, with narrow hallways and limited cover. It was a volatile situation, requiring careful handling. Captain Sterling, seeing Cassie, immediately turned to her. "Miller, what's your assessment? How do we get him out without anyone getting hurt?" Cassie quickly analyzed the layout, the man's behavior, the potential risks. "Captain, the hallway is too exposed for a direct approach. We need to create a diversion, draw his attention away from the door, and then use a less conventional entry point." She pointed to a window on the side of the building, accessible from a fire escape. "If we can get a clear shot at the window, we can create a distraction, and then a team can breach the door from the other side." Sterling nodded, his trust in her evident. "All right, Miller. You're on point. Carter, you're with her. Sergeant Rodriguez, prepare a breach team." Cassie and Ben moved quickly, ascending the fire escape. The wind whipped around them, but Cassie's hands were steady, her focus absolute. She reached the window, a clear view into the apartment. The man was pacing, his back to her, his weapon clutched in his hand. "Ready, Ben?" Cassie whispered, positioning herself. "Ready, Cass," Ben replied, covering her. Cassie took a deep breath, aimed, and fired. The shot was precise, hitting the window frame with a loud crack, shattering the glass without endangering anyone inside. The man startled, turning towards the noise, momentarily distracted. That was all the breach team needed. Sergeant Rodriguez and her officers stormed the apartment, quickly subduing the man without further incident. No one was hurt. Later, as the scene was being cleared, Captain Sterling approached Cassie, a look of profound respect on his face. "Another textbook operation, Miller. You're a credit to this department." Cassie smiled, a genuine, confident smile. She had faced the whispers, the judgments, the subtle prejudice, and she had not only overcome them, but had also risen above them. She was no longer just Officer Cassidy Miller, the plus-size policewoman. She was Officer Cassidy Miller, a leader, a skilled tactician, a valued member of the force, and a hero who had proven her worth not by conforming to others' expectations, but by embracing her own unique strengths. The city was safer because of her, and her journey had just begun. Officer Miller's journey is truly inspiring. If you're moved by her courage, intelligence, and the way she's changing perceptions, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. The incident at the domestic disturbance call solidified Officer Cassidy Miller's reputation, not just as an exceptional marksman, but as a brilliant tactician and a calm, decisive leader. The successful resolution, achieved without injury to anyone, was a testament to her quick thinking and the trust she had cultivated within her team. Captain Sterling, once her most vocal skeptic, now relied heavily on her judgment, often deferring to her strategic insights during critical situations. The new task force, under her influence and Sergeant Rodriguez's guidance, was thriving, becoming a model for intelligence-led policing within the department. Cassie's days were now a whirlwind of activity, leading training sessions, developing new tactical protocols, and spearheading investigations into complex criminal networks. She found immense satisfaction in her work, in the tangible impact she was making on the city's safety. The uniform, once a source of subtle discomfort and judgment, now felt like a powerful symbol of her authority and competence. She wore it with an undeniable pride, a quiet confidence that radiated from within. Her relationship with Ben Carter had deepened into an unbreakable bond of mutual respect and friendship. He remained her steadfast partner, her rock in the field, always ready to back her up, always the first to offer a word of encouragement or a well-timed joke. "You're changing things, Cass," he'd often say, a genuine admiration in his eyes. "You're showing them what real leadership looks like." Jess Riley, once her antagonist, had become one of her most dedicated students and, surprisingly, a burgeoning friend. Jess sought out Cassie's advice, not just on tactical matters, but sometimes on personal challenges. She had shed her sharp edges, replaced by a newfound humility and a genuine desire to learn. During a particularly grueling training exercise, Jess approached Cassie, her face streaked with sweat. "Miller, that last drill, it was brutal, but I get it now. It's not about brute force. It's about smart movement, conserving energy, and knowing when to strike. You've completely changed how I think about this job." Cassie smiled, a warmth spreading through her. "That's the goal, Riley. It's about working smarter, not just harder." The biggest joy, however, remained Liam. He was flourishing, his coding skills advancing rapidly, and he often bounced ideas off Cassie, seeing her as a source of practical problem-solving. He was immensely proud of her, his eyes shining whenever he saw her in uniform, or heard about her latest achievements. "You're like a real-life superhero, Cassie," he'd tell her, completely earnest. His unwavering belief was the fuel that kept her going, a constant reminder of the innocent lives she was sworn to protect. If you're inspired by Officer Miller's journey of leadership and the positive changes she's bringing, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful stories of impact. Months turned into a year. The 17th Precinct, once plagued by the Shadow's reign of terror and internal skepticism, had transformed. Crime rates were down, officer morale was up, and the new task force, affectionately dubbed Sterling's sharpshooters by some, was consistently delivering results. Cassie's influence was undeniable. She had not only proven her own worth, but had also paved the way for a more inclusive and merit-based approach to policing. One afternoon, Chief Howard Davies, the head of the entire city's police force, paid an unannounced visit to the 17th Precinct. Chief Davies was a formidable figure, known for his stern demeanor and his unwavering commitment to excellence. His presence usually signaled a serious audit or a major disciplinary action. Captain Sterling, looking unusually nervous, ushered Chief Davies into his office. A few minutes later, Sterling emerged, his face unreadable, and called for Cassie. "Officer Miller, Chief Davies would like a word with you." Cassie felt a familiar flutter of nerves, but quickly composed herself. She walked into Sterling's office, where Chief Davies sat, his gaze piercing. "Officer Miller," Chief Davies began, his voice deep and authoritative. "I've been following the progress of the 17th Precinct's new task force, and more specifically, your contributions." Cassie stood at attention. "Yes, Chief. Captain Sterling has submitted a comprehensive report on your performance, your tactical insights, your leadership in the field, and your exceptional marksmanship," Chief Davies continued, picking up a file from the desk. He also included the commendation for the apprehension of Victor Thorne, the Shadow. He looked up, his expression softening slightly. "Your record, Officer Miller, is exemplary. You've demonstrated a level of skill and dedication that is truly commendable." Cassie felt a surge of pride. This was the highest praise she could receive. "However," Chief Davies continued, his tone becoming more serious, "I've also read Captain Sterling's candid assessment of his initial biases, and I've heard the whispers, Officer Miller. The challenges you faced, the prejudice you encountered, simply because you didn't fit a certain mold." He paused, his gaze direct. "That is unacceptable. This department prides itself on merit, on skill, on dedication, not on superficial appearances." He leaned forward, his voice firm. "Officer Miller, your actions have not only made this city safer, but you have also, perhaps unknowingly, sparked a vital conversation within this department about what true strength and capability look like. You've shown us that an officer's worth is not measured by their speed in a foot chase, but by their courage, their intelligence, their precision, and their unwavering commitment to justice." Chief Davies closed the file. "Effective immediately, Officer Miller. You are promoted to Sergeant. You will continue to lead the Tactical Response Unit, and you will also be instrumental in developing new diversity and inclusion training programs for the entire force, focusing on recognizing and valuing diverse strengths. This is not just a promotion, Sergeant Miller. It's a mandate. I want you to help us change the culture of this department, from the ground up." Cassie was speechless. Sergeant. A promotion she had dreamed of, but never truly believed she would achieve, not with the biases she had faced. And a mandate to change the department's culture? It was an immense responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity. "Chief Davies," she finally managed, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." "I know you won't, Sergeant Miller," Chief Davies replied, a rare smile gracing his lips. "I have every confidence in you." Walking out of the office, Cassie felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Captain Sterling met her gaze, a look of genuine pride and respect on his face. "Congratulations, Sergeant Miller," he said, his voice warm. "You've earned it." The news of her promotion spread like wildfire through the precinct. Ben was the first to embrace her, lifting her off her feet in a celebratory hug. "Sergeant Miller, I knew it. I always knew you'd get there." Jess Riley, her eyes shining, shook Cassie's hand firmly. "Congratulations, Sergeant. You deserve this more than anyone." Liam, when she told him that evening, was beside himself with joy. "Sergeant Cassie Miller, that sounds so cool. I told you you were a superhero." Officer Miller's journey has reached an incredible peak. If you're inspired by her promotion and her new role in shaping the future of policing, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. Sergeant Cassidy Miller embraced her new role with the same dedication and intelligence that had defined her career. She led the tactical unit with a firm but fair hand, earning the unwavering loyalty of her team. Her training programs, developed with input from Sergeant Rodriguez and even Jess Riley, focused on practical skills, critical thinking, and fostering an environment where every officer's unique strengths were recognized and valued. She challenged the old notions of what a police officer should look like, proving through her own example that competence came in many forms. She became a mentor to younger officers, particularly those who, like her, might not fit the conventional mold. She taught them to embrace their strengths, to find their own unique ways to contribute, and never to let anyone diminish their worth. Her office, once a symbol of her struggles, became a beacon of hope and guidance for many. Years passed. Sergeant Miller continued to rise through the ranks, her reputation growing beyond the 17th precinct. She became a respected figure in the city's police force, a symbol of progress and change. Her story, once whispered with prejudice, was now told with admiration and respect. One sunny afternoon, Cassie, now a captain herself, stood on a podium, addressing a new class of police academy recruits. She looked out at the sea of eager, nervous faces, a diverse group of young men and women, all dreaming of serving their city. Her uniform, now tailored perfectly, sat comfortably on her frame, a testament to her journey. "Look around you," Captain Miller began, her voice strong and clear, resonating with years of experience and hard-won wisdom. "You come from different backgrounds, with different strengths, different challenges. Some of you are fast, some are strong, some are brilliant strategists, some are natural communicators. Embrace those differences. They are your greatest assets." She paused, her gaze sweeping over the recruits, her eyes lingering for a moment on a young woman who, like her, carried a little extra weight, her expression a mix of hope and apprehension. "When I started my career," Captain Miller continued, "I was told I couldn't run like the others, and it was true. But I learned that there are many ways to serve, many ways to protect. I learned that a steady hand, a clear mind, and an unwavering commitment to justice are far more powerful than any sprint." She held up her hand, displaying the badge pinned to her uniform. "This badge," she said, "doesn't just represent authority. It represents trust, it represents responsibility, and it represents the promise we make to our community, to protect and to serve, with integrity, with courage, and with every ounce of our unique abilities. Don't let anyone tell you what you can't do," Captain Miller concluded, her voice filled with conviction. "Show them what you can do. Show them your worth, because true strength isn't about fitting a mold. It's about breaking it and forging your own path, one steady aim at a time." As the recruits erupted in applause, Captain Miller looked out at the city skyline, a vibrant tapestry of life and challenges. She thought of her journey, from the whispers and the prejudice to the respect and the leadership. She thought of Mr. Finch and the many others who had judged her by her cover. And she thought of Liam, of Ben, of Evelyn, of Maria, of Sergeant Rodriguez, and even of Jess, the allies who had seen beyond the surface and believed in her. She had not only proven her worth, but had also helped to redefine what it meant to be a hero in uniform. Her legacy was not just in the criminals she apprehended or the lives she saved, but in the countless officers she inspired, in the culture she helped to change, and in the unwavering truth that true strength, true competence, and true leadership come from within, regardless of the uniform's fit. Captain Cassidy Miller stood tall, a testament to the power of resilience, a beacon of justice, and a living embodiment of the fact that sometimes the most impactful change comes from those who refuse to run, but who shoot exceptionally well. What an incredible and inspiring conclusion to Captain Miller's story. If you were moved by her journey of courage, intelligence, and unwavering determination to prove her worth, please show your support. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs a dose of inspiration, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more powerful and heartwarming stories like this one. Your engagement helps us continue to create content that celebrates the human spirit. Thank you for watching.